Madondina Miakata. Just simply saying good morning to all of you. I hope you and your household are doing well. We're grateful to God for a new day, for His goodness and His mercies. And whatever it is that you may find yourself doing this morning, I just need you to simply know that God is with you. Why? He is with you. He will never forsake you. He won't leave you. Just that the ways of God are not ours, you see. There are ways that you want things done, but probably that's not the way of God. He will surely come through for you, especially if He is the one you're depending on. Just be confident that He is with you. You can choose to put that on your status, on your wall, just to remind yourself that no matter what, God is with me. Home Affairs is brought to us by Dano Milk. Choose tasty milk, choose nourishment, choose Dano Milk. Dano Milk, go for it. And indeed, to Vitamilk, indeed a nutritious beverage that feels good anywhere, anytime. So yes, school has resumed. Last week, social media was awash with back to school issues, with school fees topping them all. Hey, Asabo. The schools know they give chance. Everything is passed on to the consumer. That is why this morning I said God is with us. No. Then you're thinking about lunch, you're thinking about other meals. You know, those of you who have toddlers, you have to probably provide 2 snacks in addition to the regular meals. If they go to school by bus, then you're looking at your bus fares. You have to buy books. Now, extracurricular is part of the things that your children must necessarily do in school. It's important, so you pay for all of those. If you have drivers that take them to school, then yes, you're talking about fuel, you're talking about paying the drivers, and it's a lot. So let me just say ayiko to all parents out there. Not easy. It's around this time that if you don't know, you go and make any unnecessary demands. What they will do to you, eh? So to mommies and daddies out there, are you cool? But that's not all that is needed, you know. On Life Lounge yesterday, it's the stories up on my jaw online. You know, every week I try to put up a write-up and I call it Life Lounge. Yesterday I talked about the fact that paying school fees, providing shelter, meals and clothes are not enough. You have to be present. For me, the things I mentioned above will be just 1/4. The other 3/4 will be in you being present. That's where the real work is. And this morning we are having a conversation about how we're teaching our children about empathy and kindness. I saw this post and I thought it was so profound. I did the work around it in my home. I do that all the time. But when I saw it, I reiterated it. And then we thought that why don't we bring it up for us all to have conversations, especially so now that our children are going back to school or are back in school. So it says, dear parents and guardians, as the school year begins, I have a small favor to ask. Please take a few minutes to sit your child and explain that there is never a reason to make fun of someone for their height, their weight, their skin tone, their home life, or their interests. Teach them that it's okay to wear the same shoes every day and that a used backpack carries the same dreams as a new one. Encourage them to include everyone, no matter how different they may seem. Remind them that teasing hurts and that school is for learning, not for spreading negativity. Explain that some kids don't go home to loving families, so it's essential to be kind and understanding. Kindness and empathy begin at home. Your guidance helps create a positive and inclusive environment for all students. Thank you for your support. And for me, this was really very, very profound. What are we sending our children to school with? What message are we giving them? And I want to believe that most children, you that you're listening to me, your child has probably suffered one form of, abuse or the other. People have been unkind to them. My child was, they've been bullied, and sometimes they come back home really very broken, not wanting to go back to school the next day, and you will have to do the work. Talk to them, try to build confidence in them and tell them to look past it and all that. And are we educating our children at home to go to school and show love and kindness and be there for? Or we think that it's okay because they're kids. It's not okay. Some children never recover from it. Some children end up becoming broken adults who also end up inflicting pain on other people because they were bullied so much as children and nobody came through for them. And that's the conversation. It's a holistic conversation we want to have this morning about the development of our children and how we can impact some of these values into them when they go out. Today, a lot of things have changed. And a child doesn't get up for an adult to sit anymore. I mean, you go to occasions and you actually, even if the child wants to get up, their parents are telling them, sit down. I mean, you're also a person. You don't get up for someone else to sit. If they wanted a chair, they would have come in early. And a lot of these things are happening. So how are we parents positioning ourselves and teaching our children these virtues, these values that end up making society a better place? And so my guest this morning, Safam, is already seated in all her glory. Hi, Safam, good morning.
Good morning, Edem.
It's been a while.
I know.
How have you been, though?
I'm good.
Great.
It's been tough, but I'm good.
We thank God. Yeah. I mean, the way you are looking, I mean, you can only be good. So she's Mrs. Safam Lord Mensah. She's an educationist and a parent. And thank you very much, Safam, for waking up and coming all the way to join us on this conversation. We have Mrs. Ethel Obin-Treve on Zoom. Ethel, remember, I think last week we had a conversation again where we talked about, children and their mental health. We thought it was very important to bring back that conversation because school had resumed, and now we're going to be having a lot of conversations around getting our children settled back in school. And she's a clinical psychologist and executive director, Fafanto Psych Organization. Hello, Ethel, can you hear me? Great. Good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, and good morning to your listeners as well.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Great. And in no time, Mr. Afol, Emmanuel Afol, I like to call him Pakojo. He's also an educationist and a parent. He will be joining us on the conversation as well. But let me start with you, Safam. Having heard your voice, the last time we had a lengthy chat on corporal punishments, remember?
Yeah, we did.
But we're talking about teaching our children values such as empathy, kindness, love when they go back to school or when they are amongst their friends. But to start with, what do you make of the plea from this parent? We don't know who the person is. It's an anonymous post, but very, very, very profound. What do you make of it?
Good morning again. You could tell that it's a realization that we are losing touch with these values when it comes to our children in the society. You mentioned that, so I was taught to get up for an elderly person to sit down. So till date, when I go somewhere and I see a grown-up, a man or a woman wanting a space to sit whilst I'm sitting, I get up. And you realize that the man would rather say, oh, you are a lady, don't go on and sit. So it is something that has been with me because that was how I was brought up. Teaching empathy and kindness is not more of what you tell them. It is more of what you do on a regular basis and how they see you react and how you relate to people around them. You don't say set them down. Yes, empathy. It is this, it is that. Values of empathy, steps to empathy, and all. What do you do? It is what you do. Children learn by observing what you do in the system. And you notice that Madam Ethel would go further into this to enlighten us that as a child, when you are growing up, there are certain things that you come with from the womb. And there are certain things that the environment assists you to prune and then to define you. If you're a Christian, you believe that the Bible says, train up a child in a way that when he or she grows, will not depart from it. So not talking, but exhibiting those traits and values in the home, then the child grows up to know that indeed, to be empathetic towards somebody should be part of me. It should be natural. Unless there's an underlying factor or sickness or disease that makes the child not to be in touch with his or her emotions, then that becomes an issue. But for a child growing up with everything, all things being equal, the economic people will tell you that all things being equal, then empathy is part of the learner or the student as or the child as he or she grows, and what he or she sees you exhibit in the society or at home especially.
Great. Thank you very much, Safam. So it is more about what they see you do. There was some time ago they said some people would say, oh, it doesn't work like that this way. The children, I remember I hosted some teenagers here some time ago, and when I said that their final words to parents, one of them said, we just want to tell our parents that we are watching them. For me, that was so profound. They're watching them. So you're telling us what to do, but we are also watching what you're doing, and that's integrity. Ethel, I'm on to you now. Let me remind our everybody who is tuning and listening to us, you can interact with us on 055 1111 997 055 1111 997. That's on WhatsApp, and then on Facebook at Joy997, YouTube at Joy997. I think Aaron is helping us also interact on X as well, so you can catch us everywhere and join in the conversation. This is a very, very important conversation. It's not one of those conversations, one of those exciting conversations that brings, giggles and things like that, because we are talking about love and relationship. But this is really very critical. If our children today will enjoy very beautiful love relationships, marriages, and all that tomorrow, then these conversations for us parents to impact into them, it's really very critical. So we're urging all of you to join in, send your messages, your thoughts, your experiences around the subject so that we all can share. Parenting is a school. Nobody ever knows it all. Ethel, I wanted to first of all, your thoughts on, the piece I shared, and then to find out from you, how do we begin to inculcate these values into our children? At what age? What are the concepts around it?
All right. So good morning once again. I think that we have started on a very good note. And for me, it's one of the very important topics, when it comes to conversations about children. In terms of the piece itself, I'll say one thing, that parenting is really being very intentional from the very beginning, like you said. And I call that even before I had children. In fact, when I had my first child, I remember my grandma told me something, and that has really stayed with me. She said, and it's interesting thinking about that because, you look at a lot of things, or you consider things from very scientific, background. And we've been told before that, at a point that, yeah, children come and they're blank and all that. And of course, now we know that is not the case. Children come with certain things. And my grandma told me this, and she is not, I won't say completely schooled. She's not had like formal education. Maybe she's had to a certain level, but she told me something. She said, every child that is, that you get to have, always look out for a number of things. The things that you like, that you see in your child, you leave them as is. And the things that you don't like, you take them away from the child. Now, environment also impacts behavior. And so that would mean that I'm sure this parent has seen things and heard things, or has experienced things as a result of what their own child might have experienced. Or maybe they themselves have gone through that. And so it's a gentle reminder to every parent, every significant person in that child's life, to remember to be intentional. And that's one of my favorite words. Intentionality is key when it comes to parenting. It's true. We all don't start, knowing everything. Even for me as a clinical psychologist, I'm a parent. And so I also am learning, and I'm still learning. And I think learning is something that is, it's something that's going to be with me forever. But we must be very intentional when it comes to our children and raising them. What are some of the things that you hear your child say? What are some of the things that you have been hearing them, in terms of doing when they come home? What kind of questions are you asking them? It's really important. We're very particular about this, and then know our role when it comes to raising them. Because it's not all about, oh, they're just being children. That sometimes I think that's the excuse a lot of parents are making. But then again, the other question is, who's raising our children? Who's giving them the values? What it is that my grandma said? What is it that, other adults are saying about our children? How are we taking some of these from them? And what are we also giving back to them so that at the end of the day, they become, well-meaning, particular and intentional adults themselves as well. And I tend to work with a lot of schools, and I've seen a lot of horrible things. School just started, and just yesterday, I had a child come in with concerns about, her weight, and that she's already being teased. For one, she just started her menses, and it happened in school. She got up, and then there was a stain, and everybody's making noise and making fun of her, and then also making fun in regards to her weight. And she came in again. And if children were to understand the impact of what they do, what they say on others, once we get them to look at that and feel that, I'm sure there's going to be a huge difference. So definitely in terms of this piece, my reaction is, this is a parent who has experienced maybe herself and is reminding or probably reliving based on what their own child is going through, or It is based on what she is seeing, maybe in her environment, whether it's her own child or someone very dear. And that's how come that reaction as a gentle reminder. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll take Pakojo's reaction as well, and then we will follow through with the conversation. We want to find out. Okay, so I appreciate the bit about us being intentional. Parenting is about being intentional. What values do I want to instill in my children? And if you're intentional, then you get to see a lot of things. You're seeing the things that you particularly don't like, and then you will begin to. And sometimes the problem is because we don't know how to handle these things. And if you don't know how to handle it, then you begin to find answers to them. And so, Pakojo, I don't know if you heard me read the piece, or you've seen it. It's been on social media. It's gone around, And we have a family platform, so I shared it to the platform. The kids read it. We had conversations around it. And, I mean, not that it's the first time. We talk about it all the time, but sometimes you get nudged again, and then you want to make sure that it's gone down. Do not ever be a part of anybody that is bullying anybody in school. Somebody has it worse than you. And so your reaction to it, then I want to find out, where do we begin this from? How do we even begin to instill, or first we take it from the effects of some of these things on the children. We'll reverse the conversation, and then how you begin to instill it. So Pakojo, your reactions, and if you have had any experiences with some of these things.
Certainly, Edem. Let me say good morning to Sefam and Ethel. And good morning.
Okay, please use the microphone first.
Good morning to your good self, Edem. It's been a while.
I know, right?
I just say that this conversation couldn't have come at any better time. It is timely, it is timeless. Indeed, just the day before yesterday, I had an issue that I had to deal with, and it's about body shaming.
Oh.
And I think that generally the wider society hasn't come to accept the effect these things actually have on children, especially. Children as young as 2, 3 years actually feel these effects. It's as simple as, for example, a teacher making a remark that, oh, Kojo's work is excellent, but Amma, you need to work harder. Now, as true as that may be, the weight of the words weigh on these children, And so you have a situation where a child doesn't want to come to school again just because the teacher passed a comment, or an auntie said this, or an uncle said this, or even a colleague in class said this or that. And so it's really, really mind-boggling why, as a society, we haven't started looking at these issues and the effect it has. You can have a situation where a child, for example, wouldn't eat because someone thought that they were too fat. They wouldn't work. And all these things have a way of psychologically impacting their brain and the way they work. And the worst of them all of them is when, for example, we parents who are supposed to know better, I'm choosing my words carefully, who are supposed to know better, blame these children because we think they are not doing well in school. And so the child is actually in a mix. So where do I go? When I go to school, I'm being bullied. When I come home, instead of mom or dad understanding me, they are doing this or that. So it's a big issue we need to discuss. And I don't think that having a conversation on a program like this is enough. And I'm happy all of us are coming to the table. I mean, just a couple of weeks ago, we heard what happened at O'Reilly.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at a causative...
Can you imagine?
I mean, something as trivial as that. I mean, why would you even be discussing that? If we're taking our counseling session seriously, if schools had counseling units, the conversation would have been more stimulating. You wouldn't be comparing, you are not talking about the universities you want to go to. So it's a whole, and it has to do with what are we even teaching at school? What does the syllabus contain, Edem? We're also looking at the psychosocial effect. I am not a professional psychologist like
That's why we have Ethel.
Ethel. But if you stay in a classroom and you see some of these things and how they impact children, you begin to reverse and sit down and put the books aside and probably start looking at how children behave and how even the simple words we use have these effects on the children. So, Edem, it's a lot.
Great. We're going to be having series of these conversations because if we're talking home affairs, then everything that impacts the home, we will have to talk about it. And there is no better time to have conversations around our children, their behavior in school, and teaching them to be empathetic, loving, and kind towards other people. It will just make the world a better place, and it's important. So question now is, where do we even begin this from? Ethel, I'm coming to you, and then Sefam, I'll come to you. Where do we begin this from? How do we begin to instill these values into our children? How do you go about it? Apart from mostly in the home, you say, don't do this again, and that's it. But when you actually want the child to learn the concepts of empathy, kindness, love, being concerned about others, not bullying them, generally being empathetic towards other people, how do you even begin to properly instill it into children?
Into children. Right. So I think right from the very beginning, children, we say that we are models as parents. Now, when I talk of parents, I'm not just talking about biological individuals that's in the child's life, but anybody that it plays a very significant role. So we're looking at the parent, we're looking at family members, we're looking at, what do you call it? Any person that plays that role. So the nanny at home, for example, even the driver at home.
Now teachers a lot, because some children are going to school as early as 3 months.
Very early. Yes, and that's very true. So even the bus driver that takes them to school is another. So, and then of course we have the teacher and then the educator. So you're looking at like a whole chain of individuals who are role models in the child's life. I know that the first person we're all going to think about is the parent in the child's life. And it definitely starts from there. But I think that, looking at it in entirety, you're looking at all these individuals who play some role somewhat, because our words do matter, our actions do matter. So then, everybody's being very particular. At a point in time, I would say that the whole concept about raising a child was not an individual's problem. It was the society's problem or a responsibility. So everybody felt that, hey, this child is a part of us. And because of that us, it means that we have to be very intentional then about the things we are doing and saying, and then also ensuring that we are passing that on, to that child. Now, how dare you come to, maybe even say something in a child's life because of what maybe the reaction that is going to come from a parent. So suddenly everybody is learning to mind their own business. They're leaving you to do what you have to do for your child. I'm also going to focus on mine, forgetting that these individuals will still meet at a point and that they would interact. And so there's still going to be some influence as well. So nobody is an island when it comes to raising children. And so to that question, I think that right from the beginning, now children start by watching. It's not what you're saying in the classroom. It's not what you're teaching in the classroom. It is what you're doing. So the teacher as well standing there saying, hey, wabon, I get that from some children when they come in, what they hear we be cry, whatever it is we do, I mean, just to say, just translating that, whatever we do, even if we should take the whole, knowledge and put it in your head, you're still not going to do well. Good. And I'm saying these, I'm repeating some of the things I hear on a regular when it comes to children. And sometimes, having these assessments based on some difficulties they might be experiencing in regards to their learning. And they're telling you these, and these I realized, this one I heard just last week. A teacher saying that to a child, and I'll say that you have failed that child. Because what you have done is you've actually enabled a system in the classroom where it has opened the door for children to tease and make fun and then to criticize and to impact that child negatively. So if the one that is expected to play that role has failed, what do you think is going to happen to the rest of them? You've only given them the door, you've given them access. So there is that which we have to do. So right from the beginning, we have to. Then there's something that I think that parents or even significant others need to do. There's something called a bystander effect. Sometimes when we see other people being mean, being vile, whether it's an adult, whether it's a child that is doing that to someone else, there's this assumption that, oh, someone else is going to step in. We need to teach everybody to stand up for the next person, because once you do that, what you're doing is you're actually diffusing situation. You're kind of dousing whatever that impact would have been, because once you stand up for the person who's going through that, what you're teaching then is that it is not okay, it is not right. And so it's very important that, aside saying, look, we need to do this for our children, we need to ensure that we're being intentional, we're also teaching children to stand up for others for whatever the reason might be. Because yes, there are children who lack empathy, I mean, for whatever it is. And something, kindness is an act that can be taught.
Yeah.
You can teach kindness. So it's not something that you say, oh, this is what the child has been through and that's it. No, you can actually teach. So that intentionality is a huge word. And I think it plays a huge role when it comes to raising our children. The impact is terrible. So one would have to look at low self-esteem. The child is feeling worthless. They don't feel a part of. There are also feelings of depression, sadness, or hopelessness, and that might account for some of the reasons why some children would say, "I don't want to go to school." And they cannot even explain to the parent why they don't want to go to school. So you find a child constantly making excuses. You have some who will be crying all of the time when they go into the school setting because of how unpleasant that feeling is. All I want to do, a child would say, is all I want to do is I want it to stop. Then, interestingly, you can actually have some children also retaliating based on what they've been through. And this one, I'm talking about a teen that told me that, what, growing up, I've always been a bit heavy. And so at this point where I found myself, what I also do is I equally hurt other people because of what some people also did to me. So you can have that also happening now because they've also been hurt. And in this month of suicide as well, sometimes some children, when they feel that they can't deal with what's going on, then they're thinking of ending their lives. Yeah. So it's a huge conversation we're having, very important, very vital. And I think that all significant others need to take seriously. So from the mother to the father to parents and, other family members, to even us on the outside. I mean, once you get to see a child going through something, whether you're related or not, you have to do something about it. And so that is how important it is, when it comes to ensuring that we're being intentional as parents.
Wow. I feel the passion with which you delivered those words, especially, two things Ethel said and explained them, succinctly. One is the fact that children are watching. I think I mentioned that earlier. So when I asked, how do we begin to instill these things in children? So the beginning is not about sitting them down and telling them, be kind, be empathetic, be this, when they don't even see you treating them kindly.
Yeah.
So it's important what we do, and I think that's where it begins. What are you doing by way of loving, by way of being empathetic, by way of being kind in front of these children? How are you living it up yourself? And that is where it begins from. That is so profound. Then Ethel also talked about the bystander effect. Have they ever seen you tell somebody that this is not cool, don't do it to the child? Have they ever seen you step up for a child who is being bullied, and you in turn maybe just giving them a hug and telling them that you will be fine? What have they seen you do to, somebody who is not being shown love? How have you shown love for them to see? So the starting point will be more of what they see you do than what you are saying. Really, really very important. Ethel, thank you for those words. And I'm getting, a bit emotional. Because when it comes to children, my belief is that, especially the very young ones, my belief is that these kids, they only need to be happy. All they need is to be happy. So what's your business trying to make this child unhappy? What do you hope to achieve? And is this Safam who said it was the same author who talked about teachers telling kids that wobble?
Wobble, yeah.
Like, yo,
Yeah. Yeah.
you have born 10 times. That is why you can say that. Because an intelligent teacher wouldn't say that to a child, right? If you're a smart teacher, you will know the effect of those words on the child, so you won't say it. It's you that you are able to, say those words to a child. It is you who has born over and over and over again. Because the smart ones, like Safam here and Pakojo, will never say that to the children. Yeah. Safam, let me come to you. Your experiences with some of these things and how you have handled them. I'm actually talking about, have you seen a child, and Piki, I'll be asking you the same question, have you seen a child or a student being very kind and empathetic to another child, and how do they exhibit these things?
So before I come to your question, in addition to being intentional, or the word intentionality, I'm adding continuity to it, because you notice that training up a child or nurturing a child is not one person's work. It's a whole chain. So when you're intentional with who you bring to your house, in terms of caregivers, what they eat, what they watch on social media, even the TV, and the kind of school you choose or you select for them to attend, do you know the philosophy of that school? What do they stand for? Because remember, Ethel even mentioned that even the bus driver, the people that even cook in the school, all these people, they have their individual philosophies before entering or coming into the school. Are they in sync with what the school stands for and what they are impacting onto the lives of these children? So if you are intentional and you continue that, you ensure that continuity is there, then it means we can make progress. I'm using the word continuity in the sense that, for example, you stand for certain things. Your behavior, I remember I said from the beginning, I said that it's not what you say, it is what you do that your children will learn. So yes, you are intentional about empathetic behavior, kindness, and other things. The support system that you bring to your house, are they also in line with that? How do you treat your caregivers? Do you call them names? Do you insult them in the presence of your children? What do you say? Even your friends that are not in your house. I keep saying that if you want to see what or know what your friends talk about in your absence, look at how their children behave when they see you.
Yeah.
Look at how they act towards you when they see you. Because what you say about your friend in front of your children, definitely your children will see that person, and their behavior or the body language, you depict certain things that probably you don't want your friend to know. So what we talk about when those children are there, what we feed them, what others you allow others to come into their system to exhibit, goes a long way to affect them. So there are issues of, for example, when my daughter was young as 2 years, she went to school. And when she was coming back home, she was given a doll to attend to. So her duty or responsibilities, when you wake up in the morning, take care of the doll. So she'll wake up, she'll brush the teeth, dress up, comb, and then when she's eating, she was using a high chair, and then she'll be, "Mommy, please, I need a high chair for the dog." Then you don't have a high chair, so maybe you can sit down and then I'll assist you to feed. So those things, it was not in Ghana here. But when they engage in those activities, they are just trying to instill certain things in the life of that child. My daughter will tell you that. I was asking her a question, have you been bullied before? I said, they've tried, but they can't. Then I asked her why. She says, oh, they know their target. They target some people and they go after them. And another typical example, she said, oh, one person came to me, she was like, oh, you are growing a mustache. She's a girl and she's fair and she's hairy. Then she was like, okay, is there any problem with that? Then it's seized. Before then, she has been taught that there's nothing about you that somebody will make you feel less of a human being. When they continue to hear these things and they know that somebody targeting them to hit at them, they won't allow it to happen. Then I'm like, I hope you are not being a bully yourself. She said, no, 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 no. When they come, it is a response and how you react. When they know that, oh, they say these things and you don't like it and it hurts you, and they feel, so bullying is more of, okay, let me sit on somebody's happiness for mine to be elevated. So when they do it and they get the gratification, the tendency of it repeating itself is high. But when it happens and then they don't get that gratification, they either stop it or move to another person. Remember you said that you bully somebody, the person lives with it, takes it to the university, would do it to another person, takes it to the workplace, takes it into the relationship. So in the marriage, they are bullying their spouses. The children are in the house seeing it. The child goes to school. Oh, this is what I see happening in the house. So I'm also going to do it to somebody. And another, the bystander issue. So 3 people in this: the person doing the bullying, the person who is being bullied, and the person witnessing the bullying happening. They all have certain things that they exhibit. You seeing the person being bullied, the consequences of the person being bullied. Did the person get an upper hand? Am I also going to do it? Or the person was cautioned not to do it? Or the person was informed that no, this is not right? Or it just went on over and over again? The person who has been bullied throughout, what am I supposed to do? Go and join a gang so that I'll get somebody to defend me? So these things are happening. But in the school system, when codes of conduct are there for us to follow suit and use those things to guard and guide how we go about things, I believe that when we follow through with these things, these bullying issues will not be rampant in our schools, unless it's at the blind side of school management. Something is happening in the educational system now, that is the public schools. There's a major shift going on. Why am I saying this? But most of my colleagues are not taking these things serious. That is the professional learning community sections that are going on recently. It is for us to go back and know that the cross-cutting issues in terms of 21st century skills, Jesse, pedagogies and all these things, we are not just teaching what is in the book. But like you said, when you go to the classroom, know your learner and then quickly turn your act around so that you can meet the learner's individual needs. But some of us will go for these sections and then we sit there business as usual. But if you begin to imbibe all these things, they are not equal. Equity is not about giving them the same thing. Equity is about identifying their individual needs and meeting them so that they will be at par to be able to excel. So yes, these bullying things are happening. But is it at the blind side of management, at the blind side of the school? The codes of conduct, thankfully now, GES, the students have a code of conduct. It was a gray area, but now there's a document that is there to assist us to know that there are certain things that are not allowed. If an offender, what are the measures or the consequences of what you do? Are we allowed to carry this to the latter?
I also wanted us to talk a bit about the positives, about acts of kindness that you have seen children exhibit towards their, because we talk about the negatives, which is about the bullying, and we talk about it, we are loud about it because we want it to end. But are there some children who are also kind?
Oh, yes.
Who show love, who show empathy, and how do they exhibit some of these things?
Very, very kind. Let me, so when you asked me, I said it has been tough. So my son got hurt in school. It was a multiple fracture. So he had surgery and went back to school. When you got in, he will not be able to carry his bag, go for his food and other things. It is his friends in the class. The moment you get to the school, they rush to the car. Good morning, mommy. And then someone is helping him with carry the bag. Someone is helping him with the water and his lunchtime. What are you eating? Someone, unless he himself wants to go there, it's like that thing. Nobody taught them or say you are responsible for carrying the bag or anything. The moment you get to the school,
They want
when
to
school
help.
is over and you get, with the moment they see you driving, they are carrying his bag. Sometimes they are sitting beside him. These things, these little things that these boys or the girls nurture, or calling occasionally to check up on him. He has not reported to school. School reopened on Tuesday. Some even
Oh,
called.
he's still home.
Some even called. Oh, mommy, please, we want to check up on your son, Inshiraba. How is? Oh, he's fine. When is he coming? And the children will call. I'm using my mom's phone to call.
Yeah.
So these things, these little things, they were not. Somebody will not sit you down. Be nice to Inshiraba. Be nice to this person. But from their own state, they come through, assist. They come over, they ask questions. Some even keep him happy. Okay, they have these games they play online. So say, okay, you have not been online, so give me your account. I will play for you, and then you get to a certain level. They are doing these things just to make him happy, just to make him in touch with whatever is happening in the system. So several counts I can talk about. That the kindness among children, yes, it does. It's there and it's happening.
So it's not totally lost.
No,
We can
not
only-
at all.
We can-
Not at
We
all.
can only preach that part as well and encourage it. Great, PK.
I thank you. You see, when I said this conversation is timeless, I meant it. On the 6th of September, I rushed, and I'm saying this not for any. I don't want to pride myself with it, but I'm
Let's
just
share.
speaking. I'm trying to speak to my colleague teachers
Let's share.
all over the country. I live at a Showman. My school is in Tema, DPS, International.
I kid
This is not
you
an
not.
advert. This is not an advert. So I was quite late because I was held in traffic. So I had a first lesson. So I rushed to the classroom with my bag. Then after the usual exchange of pleasantries, I started trying to review the previous lesson. And there's this girl who is very vocal, very articulate. And if you know me, I like children who speak out. And so, let me call her X. Can you give us a recap of what you did yesterday? And I realized that for the first time, she wasn't comfortable. So it just drew me in, and I said, okay. So I just asked the others to write individually. I'll come round. And then I went to the girl and I whispered into her ears, "Are we okay? Stuff full." So I just excused myself, just stood back for several seconds, and I came back, picked my bag and said, "You know what?" I just gave her the bag, and then I asked her to stand up and go to my staff room. It was the onset of menstruation.
Oh.
She had actually stained.
Oh.
So
no
she
way.
used my bag
to cover.
to cover. And then she went, and I called the school nurse before I called the parents. Now, when the class ended, some students came to me and asked, "What's that for? What was that for?" I said, "It's a conversation we'll have another day." Right. And that ended it, right?
Wow.
I never shared anything, but I had to call the parents and let them know. And later, she actually spoke to her friends about that incident. And they were like, "Stafford, that was great." So it's about knowing the students. Sometimes when you are teaching, the facial expression, the demeanor should speak to you as to what to do. Children by nature are kind. It is the adults who actually misinterpret these acts of kindness.
Oh.
There have been several instances. Look, Edem, at DPS, one of the things we have done to make sure these, because bullying is a big issue, we have assemblies, Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay.
And for a whole month, the topic was acts of kindness. So you have children as young as 3, 4, take the microphone and make presentations about some of these things. So how does kindness look like? And so I'm not saying we're a perfect school, but it starts with the little things, as our ladies are saying here. So children by nature are naturally kind, and they will exhibit these empathetic tendencies. But the point is that the vicissitudes of today, what is happening, economics of the time, it's really driving people crazy. But I just want parents to understand that, look, the teachers actually spend more time with their children than you. That's a fact. Because when you leave for work and the children go to school, they spend 8, 9, 10 hours with the teachers. By the time you come home, they're already asleep. You get up, you go. Do we have time to talk to them? Sometimes we lose sight of the little changes that happen to them. So children, as I'm saying, are naturally kind at them, and there are several acts of kindness. I mean, this example that our lady gave happens in every school. And so we just have to take it up and then actually elevate the conversations. Again, I'm also looking at how have teachers been trained to handle some of these issues. When you go to any college of education, there's a department that teaches guidance and counseling. If you have yourself teaching in a school where you are being pressured by the headmaster or whoever to finish the syllabus, this is how we lose sight of some of these little things. Again, let's teachers be very careful about how we even write reports, children's report. This is a part we don't. What we forget is that while we are saying the truth, there's a way to actually say the truth without hurting feelings. You probably do not know that as you are saying Kofi is weak, you are pointing 4 fingers back at yourself as a teacher. So what have you done? Let Kofi be the one saying that, oh, teacher did this, teacher did that. And I'm very, very grateful for that. So these little acts, as in cleaning surfaces for friends, handing, taking the bags of people, and generally doing acts which actually bring smiles to people. Even something as simple as smiling at them could send a lot of signals to people that you really care about them.
Great. Like I said, this conversation is beginning to make me a bit emotional, because then there's so much that we all can share when it comes to our children. And it's at this point that I will encourage you to find, it is not everything, but it can actually, in addition to this conversation we are having here, begin to make you look at things a bit differently, Like I mentioned, I just read part of what I put out there on Lifeline, just a little bit. I asked, do you know what is really bothering your child? Or you think they don't have challenges? Well, let me burst your bubble, because children have so much on their minds. You cannot begin to imagine. Make time to engage your children and you will be amazed at the challenges they go through, the nightmares they deal with. You have little children wake up and come to you and tell you, I had a nightmare. And then, most parents will just say, you ate too much. But you will be amazed at how this thing is impacting the child's mind, such that in the night they won't sleep because they are afraid that they will have a nightmare again. And all you do is just brush it aside like it doesn't matter. Nightmares they deal with, the bullying they endure in school, like we're talking about here, the abuse meted out to them by close relatives, the drivers, the nannies, the uncles, the same people that we trust and put in charge of the children. You'll be shocked at the stories they will tell you about their friends and teachers who are abusing them and talking down on them. They will tell you about their friends who are doing drugs, those whose parents have abandoned them, and those who are at the mercy of housekeepers and the likes. You will be surprised to know that probably your 10 to 15-year-olds are seriously masturbating and are already sexually active. How about discovering that your 16 to 18-year-olds have had multiple sexual partners already? And everything that is, everything cannot just be fine. I'll leave it here. And these I gleaned from experiences. I do a lot of work with teenagers. You sit with them, you have conversations with them, and you'll be amazed. Even at some of them don't even like it that we saddle them with the burden of taking care of their younger ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, you saddle them with that, and you don't even give them the room to tell you how they feel. what they are thinking of. So yes, we have deadlines to meet. Sometimes the bills are such that you have to work 2-3 jobs to be able to make ends meet. But how is it okay that you want to put the needs of your children on hold so that you can meet all others, and then probably later in life you want to pay attention to your children,
and then you use money, the same money, to look
I'm
for
sorry,
solutions for
during
them.
your pension, you'll be so depressed knowing that you didn't do the work you had to do when you were much younger. This morning, we are talking about teaching your children the acts of empathy, kindness, instilling those values in them. The next thing I want to find out, and I'll start with you, Ethel, is how do we even begin to know that our children are not, they're not okay? You know, not okay in terms of probably, of course, all of these can be linked somehow to mental health. But you're just beginning to realize that, okay, this child of mine is not being as kind as I think, is not being as empathetic as I wish he is not being that nice boy or girl that I thought I was raising. What are some of the things that we will begin to see as parents at home, as teachers, in the children? I mean, especially the subtle ones. When it is overt, then you can see it. I mean, he's beating somebody, kicking somebody, and those things. But those very subtle ones, what are you seeing that will tell you that my child is probably losing touch with kindness, with empathy, with love, with being there for other people, and is rather taking on the negatives? What do you begin to see, Ethel?
Right. So, I think that one of the things that you definitely will get to see when your child is, maybe I should say, lagging behind, or you have these concerns, will be first and foremost knowing that, to a large extent, maybe they're keeping to themselves, they're lashing out at their own siblings, for example. Some of the comments, that they might pass during some interactions with you. Sometimes as well, there's a change or a shift from what you know them to be to maybe what it is that they're currently exhibiting. I think these are all indicators, a lack of interest in things that maybe you know them to find pleasurable. I think this definitely should, raise some concerns to you as a parent that something might be going on, and I need to maybe seek help, or maybe start by, asking certain questions myself. Whilst we were talking, there was something I actually wanted to chip in. We are also so busy to the point where we're not able to ask about how our children feel and what they think. Now, when we pick them from school, or when they come from school, let's say they are teens, what questions are we asking? They're spending a lot of time in their rooms. They're not coming out and engaging with us. Sometimes it even feels like a chore when you ask them to. When they don't seem to maybe want to be around you and probably, just hang out with questionable people. I think that these are things that we need to be looking at. This whole matter about expressing feelings. For the most part, you hear parents say, oh, what do they know? They are only children. That's some of the common things that we tend to find ourselves saying. Oh, sometimes even when you have some children coming in because a school has raised a concern, and then they're here, and then you're having interactions with a parent. It's like, oh, but these, well, they are only children. What do they know? They don't have any problem. It's very interesting when parents raise that, because I tend to make them then look on the inside. When you were like them, did you not have any problems yourself? And it's like, oh, okay, well, it was bad by my own, we try to justify, forgetting that every individual has experiences. Every child has an experience, and that experience definitely will get to impact them, one way or the other. So when you see these changes in your child, I think that is very important to then question and see what it is you can do. Because like I mentioned earlier, the huge or the negative impact would be the anxiety and the depression, which can also impact the academics. At the end of the day, it does not stop with how they're only feeling, but it can impact academic performance or achievements as well. And that can shift an individual from, what they are to a particular type of individual or adult, in the future. And so if we're modeling kind behavior and we're not seeing that in our children, maybe we need to question what else they might be exposed to. What about the screens and the kind of things they're watching at this point in time? Now, children are prone to all sorts of information out there because of the tech era that we find ourselves in. What are they watching? What are they, experiencing? When they're hanging out with friends, for example, some of them are having play dates, for example. So they're going to, and also sleepovers. I mean, all of these things are, we're catching up with different things, at this point in time. And all of that means some kind of exposure, and then also being able to discuss emotions openly. I mean, so that we can help them identify some of them. For example, how do you think your friend felt when this happened? Ask them what happened in their day. I pick my kids up and I'm asking what exactly happened. I'm not asking, how are you? I'm fine. Did you have a good day? Yes or no? Be very specific. What happened in school? What happened in the class? Which lesson did you have? What did the teacher talk about? What about your friends? Do you even know their friends? So for parents or for significant others, it's really important that, like I said, intentionality, and then adding on to that, the continuity. We ensure that we're actually doing that, because it doesn't end with just asking, particular things, but going deep. And then if you also know your child, you would be able to tell what exactly is going on. Sometimes it would mean that, aside, you trying to intervene, if you realize you can't do much, I would encourage that you speak with a professional as much as possible. Then in the schools, I think one of the things I actually wanted to touch on too would be that, yes, so there's some pressure to ensure that we're actually completing or finishing, whether it's a syllabus,
Syllabus.
syllable, whatever it is that we have to complete. That's true. But we also have to be very intentional, because, I tend to visit a lot of schools, and you find a lot of things sprawled on the walls, no bullying and no this and that, with images and all that. But the story on the ground is different.
Different.
When you have these one-on-one with children, children are opening up, but if we're not making the time, they will not open up to you. Aside that as well, sometimes our responses and reactions will teach children to either come back to you with an issue or not. And so I'm hoping that in our intentionality, we're able to put ourselves in their shoes, to the point where they would actually feel comfortable enough to open up to us when things are happening. If not, what they're going to do is, oh, it's okay. I've had young adults come in and tell you that, well, I had to figure a way to manage or make it work. And sometimes their coping strategies are not necessarily the best. So that's when they would end up with some questionable characters. They probably might go into substance abuse. You would end up, they would end up engaging in certain activities that parents would be like, where did I go wrong? I'm hoping that to every parent that is listening, it's not about blaming any parent. We're still learning, and there's still something that can be done. But sometimes the hard truth is that it means we'd have to also check ourselves and ensure that we're changing sometimes our responses to certain, actions that we are getting from our children. One of the things I would say is this, which is very, very important at this point, that we need to also learn to catch positive behaviors or good things that our children are doing. Because, yes, so from what was said earlier by one of the guest speakers, children love to do good things. They are also observers. That is true. But at the same time as well, and at the end of the day, it's really important to also recognize that if we're not able to catch the good behaviors, which indirectly or directly can also communicate to them what is expected of them, they won't learn. So there are a number of strategies that would have to come into place. And so for any parent, as a checklist, ask yourself, are you asking the right questions? Are you being specific as well? Are you asking detailed questions? How am I responding to the responses they're giving? Sometimes, hey, you were a bad child. How could you? I mean, once you tell me that, the next time I'm not coming to you. So if I'm not fortunate enough to meet a teacher or some other person who can teach me what to do or how to act in a situation, it means that I have to find my own way to manage or deal with whatever challenges I might be facing at that point in time.
Thank you very much, Ethel. But I also wanted you to, help us identify some of the things that we will begin to find our children do. Like I
Right.
mentioned, the I mean, the very overt ones, the child is beginning to do drugs, come back home late. When you ask them questions, they don't want to mind you. They are being disrespectful. Those ones,
Right.
they are in your face, But
Right.
are there certain subtle things that our children will be doing that will make us begin to feel like, no, this is not what it has to be because you are the
Okay,
expert?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're right about that. Definitely there'll be some overt and covert behaviors. So for maybe the covert ones means we're looking at maybe some subtle signs, for example, not wanting, lack of interest in some activities like we used to, lack of confidence in their abilities, probably having some doubts, about themselves and their skills, for example, maybe because of what has been said about them in a school setting, not wanting to interact with family like before, sometimes making excuses, yet you know that this is where my child actually shines. So that's another example that can be given. Sometimes, might say or pass certain comments. There's always something that communicates all is not well. And so you probably would find a child that would say that, I don't want to eat and all that. I'm not hungry. But you know that no, my child has a very good appetite. So what's happening? Because maybe they want to lose weight because they've been teased or made fun of in school, for example. That's another. And interestingly, I've actually had parents who have actually been the ones bullying their own children about weight gain and all that. And so they came in because mom is talking about, the fact that maybe weight gain on their side of the family is a big thing. And so for her, she wants her child to lose weight, but the child is constantly eating. But there were other things that were going on with that child. And I think the impact from even the parent was the one that was actually getting the child to actually engage in what we call comfort eating. So you can also find comfort eating as a response. So the child, has shifted rather from what we're doing before to now doing other things. Eating too much, eating too little, lack of interest in activities, lack a particular interest in some other type of activities. How they're now communicating with their own siblings. Sometimes they're lashing out because to the other siblings or younger siblings, they feel they can. Although when you sit and you analyze, you realize that it's really not about my child or my other child or maybe their sibling. But they can't do that to anyone else. And so they find it convenient then to lash out at other people. So they start picking on others as well. Then you know that something is going on. This is not what I taught my child. How come they're now bullying other children? I've taught them love and empathy and kindness, but they're now doing the opposite. Maybe that becomes, their own way of also expressing how they feel. And sometimes you find a child, coiled inward. Sometimes they tell you that I don't want to go to school, I'm not happy. Sometimes when they have to meet with particular people, maybe they're not even talking about particular friends anymore. It could also be, a sign to you as a parent that something might be going on. So there's always something that communicates, but it starts with knowing. Because like what Mr. Afful said, if you know, so if the teacher knows the student or that child, they will know when something is off. It's the same thing for the parents, but that will mean that parents are paying attention. If not, then they would get to miss
The
it.
child.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. Be present and pay attention. And like I said, for me, that will be, the whole 3/4 of the job. Paying the fees, the regular provisions will be just, a quarter of it. But if you're present and you're paying attention, then you will begin to see all the others. Koko Usupepra, why are you calling my phone? I am on air, sir. So we'll be coming back, and when I come back, I'll come to you, Mr. Afful. We want to take some practical lessons on, what should parents be paying attention to when it comes to instilling these values into them, especially so because you mentioned that they spend a lot of time in school, which is true. Now there's something even called after school care. And so they go to school, right there. Some children are made to leave home as early as 5:30 a.m. because of the distance they have to travel. And then when they finish, parents are not done yet. So there's after school care. You go and sit in after school care for another 2 hours. And then when they pick you up, you stay in traffic for another 2 hours before they get home. Oh, Christ. So practically, as the children are not, mostly with the parents, what should parents begin to do from your observations as a teacher and from spending all that time with them? What should they begin to do at home to ensure that we're growing and developing well-rounded children? Of course, it's okay to be upset. It's okay not to be happy about certain things. It's okay to air your views out. Expressing your emotions is just being human. But how do you do it such that this child is still holistic? You're angry, you're upset, you're happy, and all of those things. But how's the best way to express some of these things from your observations? I know that Ethel is the psychologist and the expert, but and you have helped a lot of students, so I'll come to you shortly. But the joy of every parent is to see their children grow healthy and become more intelligent and physically fit. And to achieve this desire, every parent needs to ensure that their children are given nutritious foods that has the essential nutrients which can promote their well-being. And one of the best of such nutritious foods is Vitamilk soy milk drink. It is made from the whole grain soybean, and it's a good source of plant protein. It's also enriched in omega 3, 6, and 9. It has calcium and all the other essential nutrients that is recommended for our daily living. So why don't you go on and choose the Vitamilk Champ for your children? Because the protein, the calcium, and the omega 3, 6, and 9 in there have all proven to help your adorable children grow smarter, healthier, and stronger every day. So it comes in the regular soy milk drink. You can have it in the energy booster with no caffeine. Also the choco, the banana, the strawberry. And if you go buying, you can find it in the 1 liter Tetra Pak or the 250 mils. Vitamilk is indeed a nutritious beverage that feels good anywhere, anytime. And let me tell you about Crown Spices. Now here comes the mother of all spices. I'm talking about Crown Spices, the taste of true natural spices. Remember, during your youthful days, your mother used to send you to buy spices and insisted you should buy no other than Crown Spices. Yes, Crown Spices come in curry powder, nutmegs powder with nutmeg powder, white pepper, black pepper, chicken masala, fish masala, meat masala, and all of these are available in the market and any supermarket across the country. However, know that the curry powder has been repackaged to a premium new look along with the addition of the new chicken, fish, and meat masala. Crown Spices, the taste of true natural spice. Crown Spices, Unapo. You see, Daniela is not here today because she's on stage. And I want to feed you. Daniela, are you the one feeding or somebody is feeding you? Which is it? That girl has many parts. And this is a Riverman production. This is Riverman Productions Anniversary Quarter, and in partnership with the National Theatre and Joy FM, it takes you to the dramatic street in an original unclipable white play titled I Want to Feed You. It's the break of a new dawn, and with it comes the craziness of the neighborhood. Auntie Peace is raining curses because her Christmas chicken is missing. Hey, I asked him. Inshira is asked to stay away from Sewa, the girl he loves, and two men are fighting over Obushi's new baby. Meanwhile, Sewa has a secret from her past that keeps chasing her, and the preacher knows more than they think he does. This is chaos. How will all of these be resolved? Well, I Want to Feed You shows on the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th of September 2024 at the National Theatre. So it means the last showing day is tomorrow. Show times are you have Friday that just went by. Yesterday was at 7 p.m. and there was one show only. Today you have 4 p.m. and you have 8 p.m. And tomorrow you have 1 p.m., you have 4 p.m. and you have 8 p.m. Rate is a cool 200 CDs. So buy your tickets via the Koba short code *365 *535 hash or the Roverman app. Tickets for outlets are also available, but that will come out later. Loyalty discounts apply to our loyalty patrons and those on the loyalty card. Discounts are also available for big purchases. So to place orders or make enquiries, please WhatsApp 05055460030. Number again is 05055460030, or you can call 05055460010. Sponsors are Koba, Gino Tomato Mix, GCB Bank, and Tilly's Tea. Communication partners, Notify and Logistics Movers. Buy your ticket now. Roverman Productions, be the difference. And let me ask you, are you a customer of Enterprise? If not, then this is the best time to join the Enterprise family, because guess what? Enterprise is excited to roll out their new loyalty program, Enterprise Advantage Points. Now, Enterprise customers can rack up points and score awesome rewards just by making purchases, renewing policies, and more, all through their self-service portal or the Enterprise Advantage app. Just log on into your account, access Advantage Points, and start earning points for rewards like airtime, Momo, and more. Visit myenterprise.net.gh or download the Enterprise Advantage app to get started. Join the Enterprise family now and purchase a policy today to enjoy this exclusive offer. Enterprise Advantage Points, because nothing you do should be pointless. Enterprise, your advantage. I like that. Nothing you do should be pointless. Everything should be pointy. And go on and discover the rich, creamy taste of Dano milk that perfectly complements your breakfast to deliver the delightful flavor you've always craved. Dano milk is fortified with vitamin A and D, and it's also a source of protein, also calcium, vitamin B2, B12. You have potassium in there, you have phosphorus in there, and all of this will keep you nourished every day. So go get your cool Dano, go get your quality Dano Cool Cow instant powdered milk for an unparalleled taste experience and your nourishment. Dano milk, go for it. Remember, this advert is FDA approved. Oh yeah, today we're actually going to glam up because it's the Glitz Woman of Honor. It's time to celebrate the woman changing the narrative. It's time to honor the woman creating a pathway for the next generation. Glitz Africa presents the 9th annual Ghana Women of Year honors, the distinguished platform that honors and celebrates the hard work of Ghanaian women and beyond. The Ghana Women of the Year 2024 takes place at the Palms Convention Center on Saturday, September 14, 2024 at 6 p.m. Media partners Joy FM with support from Ameya Deborah and Yemi Baba. For reservations and enquiries, please contact 0501581-261 or email womenoftheyear@glitzafrica.com. Ghana Women of the Year honors, women inspiring women. Remember, if you have to make any call, it should be this morning because the event is tonight, 6 p.m. And the number to call again is 0501581-261. Okay, we're just about wrapping up. We have just about 2 minutes to go. And PK, yeah.
I think that I've heard that there have been a lot of schools teaching different things, but I've never heard about a school for parenting. And this is simply because we come from different backgrounds. We have our different perspectives about life, about issues. But while we are different, we know that there's a common ground we all call standard. First, I think Ethel said intentionality. I would say be deliberate about it.
Great.
You have to be the one modeling empathy and kindness. For example, if after eating you are not saying thank you to your wife or to your husband, remember the children are there with you.
Yeah,
So if you are not saying thank you, mom, for this excellent meal, or even if you are not picking up someone's plate while you are taking yours to the kitchen, what is really wrong, or what would be wrong if you picked up someone else's plate? So let's model kindness. Let's also teach children to be expressive. Let's encourage expressive arts. Let's help them to develop the act of talking.
Assertive.
Let's engage them in stimulating conversations. Let's get into their minds, because you see, while you are paying all the hundreds of thousands of dollars in Ghana cedis, the common denominator is the child. So if you are not there,
and the child is lost in the
and the
mix.
child is lost, are you now going to pay money to repair that damage?
That's
It
why
is
Ethel-
never
Ethel
the
is there.
case. I mean, I've had students who are, for want of a better word, dumped in a boarding school, and for 1 year you haven't seen the parents. And it's very, very, very sad, Edem.
Great.
You can also try to encourage what I call active listening. Be ready to listen to them. Oftentimes, this is always lost on us because we are tired,
Great.
you know.
Thank you, PK, and to you, Safam and Ethel. Thank you so much for making time for this conversation. It's just starting. The next 2 or 3 weeks. I think we have 2 more weeks in September. That's all we are going to be doing. We're going to be having conversations. And PK, we're going to invite the children to hear.
I was
from
actually
them.
going to say that. I was
To
actually going to
invite
say that.
them to hear from them. These conversations are never complete if you don't have the conversations with the people who are actually in the mix. So we're going to have conversations with them. I look forward to that conversation. And let me remind us again that the joy of every parent is to see their children healthy and hearty. And all you have to do is be able to get them Vitamilk Champ. Vitamilk soy milk is made from natural soybeans, and it is a good source of plant protein, vitamins B1 and B2. It has no artificial coloring, no flavorings, and no preservatives. So go on and get a Vitamilk Champ for your children, because it has plant proteins and it is nutritious and amazingly delicious and very satisfying. You can have it in the regular soy milk drink, the multi-cereal with no caffeine, the choco, the banana, the strawberry, and you can buy it in the 250 mils or the 1 liter Tetra Pak. Vitamilk is indeed a nutritious beverage, and it feels good anywhere, anytime. This is where we are drawing our curtains on the conversation. I hope that you have been inspired. You will go and have that conversation with your child. You will begin to make time for them. You will begin to practice active listening with them. You will begin to do right by them by doing the right things yourself. And like PK rightly said, at the end of the day, you have spent all that money to pay the fees. They live in a big house and everything, but you don't have a wholesome child. Then what have you done? And having that wholesome child means that you, the parent, you will have to be present. And Ethel also mentioned, Safa mentioned it too. It's not just about the parents. They stay with you, the teachers, the guardians, the bus drivers, the aunties, the uncles, the nannies, everybody. All of you are responsible for creating this child who will become that responsible man or woman in society tomorrow. So all hands on deck, let's get the work done. My name is Edem Knight-Tay. Kojo, thank you for the support, and all of you who are in the background supporting, God bless you. We are out of here.
Okay.